Mr. Speaker, the ACT Party is proud to be part of this government. We're proud to support it on confidence and supply, and we're pleased, Mr. Speaker, to vote for this budget. Along with the majority of all Kiwis, we are pleased that we have a government that is addressing the scandalous abuse of taxpayers we saw over the past decade. We are pleased that we finally have a government that understands that every dollar that government spends comes from some hard-working taxpayer, or if not, is an attempt to put the tab on our children and grandchildren. Mr. Speaker, we are staggered that after 9 years of grotesque wasteful spending, the Labour Party members, Phil Goff and Darian Hughes, have the cheek to stand in this House and urge yet more spending and more borrowing. The answer to the debt problem, Mr. Hughes, is not more debt, and yet that is the only solution that the Labour Party has. We are pleased that we're seeing action across a wide range of portfolios. The last government did nothing about leaky homes, even when the global boom blessed us with fiscal surpluses. The government now is addressing this problem. We are fixing the financial crisis in ACC. We're getting better value for money in health. We are addressing our poor infrastructure, building the roads that are essential to move our people and our products around. We are looking at common sense options to utilise our mineral resources better, to give jobs and wealth to New Zealanders, and to help fund essential social services, and we're cutting red tape. We're getting more transparency and more accountability into local government, and the government is addressing long-standing problems in Auckland, issues the previous government ducked. We are creating one strong voice for Auckland. Because of Act's 3 strikes legislation, we're sending a message as a government that repeat violent crime won't be tolerated. This government will work to keep our communities safe from the violent predators. This budget, Mr. Speaker, is a welcome attempt to get New Zealand's fiscal problems under control. The Finance Minister is to be commended for his attempts to restrain government spending. In just one term of government, he will leave New Zealand in much better shape. Contrast that to the previous Finance Minister's legacy, which turned out to be a tsunami of debt. As the cyclical economic decline came, Labour increased spending at an even more frantic rate to forestall their political decline. It was irresponsible, it was foolish, it was reckless, and it was entirely typical of Labour. I commend the moves to structure the tax system to encourage work and savings, but I have to say, Mr. Speaker, that the ACT Party would prefer to do more. We would prefer we attacked wasteful spending more vigorously, because there's still plenty of it. If we did so, we would not have to be matching income tax cuts with tax increases elsewhere, and all New Zealand households would be better off. We need more competition and choice within the vast and creaking and crumbling state monopolies that dominate our health and education sectors. We could look to the new British government, which is about to introduce ACT's education policies. But while there's much to commend in this budget, and much more yet to do, there is one gross and glaring failure. There's one elephant in the room, and it threatens to undo all the good work that is being done by government ministers. Here we are, tuning up the car for peak performance, new tyres, got a tank full of gas, and any aerodynamic impediments removed. But someone has locked the handbrake in place. That handbrake is the emissions trading scheme. The rest of the world, every one of our trading partners has that handbrake off, and we've got it locked firmly on. We are the only country with an all gases, all sectors ETS. Dr. Smith calls out, what about the European Union? Well, he knows it only applies to carbon dioxide. He knows it doesn't apply to agriculture. He knows it doesn't apply to households. He knows it doesn't apply to small business. He knows that it's riven with so many exceptions and so many outs that it's hardly an ETS at all in practical effect. Well, I'm not worried about the European one. It's the one here that worries me. It's our one that worries me. Georgina Tahu's absolutely right. Because the only thing that we can say about the National Party's emissions trading scheme is that it's not as stupid as the one that Labor had. But it is still a damaging and incomprehensibly foolish imposition on our fragile economy and our hard-working export sector. It is stifling our ability to create jobs and to generate higher incomes for working people. The emissions trading scheme here, but not in Australia, will stop our ability to catch Australia, and we'll see more of our young people depart across the Tasman. And this ETS, Mr. Speaker, is a folly on the scale of past national-inspired disasters. This is up there with Rob Muldoon's attempts to central planning, and it matches and surpasses Bill Birch's disastrous Think Big. The ETS is an act of total financial and economic and environmental folly. It will take over $1 billion from struggling households and businesses and bestow that wealth on forest owners whose forests were planted long before the ETS was ever contemplated. Have the foresters had too much of an influence? Absolutely. Has the fox been in the henhouse? Yes. And what we know for sure is that farmers and other hard-working Kiwis have been in the outhouse. The costs are about to hit on July 1 this year. The ETS is an assault on the agricultural sector. We'll have higher energy costs and it'll bite into the profitability of all our processing industries. It is a bigger hit than they're having on the GST. The ACT Party, Mr. Speaker, opposes the emissions trading scheme and will continue to oppose the emissions trading scheme. I'm pleased to say that the National Party too, the membership from one end of the country to the other, oppose it. 2 Saturdays ago, the Central North Island National Party conference, attended by 300 delegates, they passed a remit to defer the emissions trading scheme. The Manurewa and Tamaki electorates are proposing a joint remit for the Northern Regional Conference of the National Party to defer the emissions trading scheme. And I say to those National Party members, good on you. Keep at it. Make your employers, particularly Dr. Nick Smith, listen. Because you pay his wages, you support him in this parliament. We can stop this madness. We can stop this self-inflicted wound. We can stop the handbrake on growth, jobs and incomes. And I say to the brave, decent and honest National supporters, who are simply urging their party in government to do what it promised in opposition, to align with the Australians' policies on climate change, but not to get ahead of it. And that we, Mr. Speaker, in the ACT Party are for you. In fact, Mr. Speaker, if those members gave their support to the ACT Party, they'd get the National Party that they thought they voted for.
The Honourable Tariana Turia.